Nature Uninterrupted. The Unintended Ideologies of the Human Exploitation of Nature. The relationship between humans and nature drastically evolves as mankind sweeps the earth and explores all its mysterious locations. As humans, we make it a goal to be able to survive in nearly any environment, whether it be for work or leisure. Through the analysis of visual metaphors and philosophies of nature, we can conclude that humans ultimately impact and benefit from nature by unintentional exploitation through viewing nature as an entertaining and profitable outlet. The advertisement chosen comes from the National Geographic's April 2018 magazine. The advertisement is marketing for the excursion of an African safari hosted by National Geographic Expeditions. Pictured is an African lioness sitting on a dirt road looking off into the distance. We can also see a partial safari buggy from which the photographer is photographing. What we can notice right away is that this lioness is very comfortable around these safari buggies and humans, something we would not see in the actual wild. Finally, the simple text of "Nature Uninterrupted" is printed at the top of the picture. What is ironic about this is that this is not true nature. The nature of the pictured area has been severely interrupted by humans, as the safari buggy, cleared trees, and a dirt road were ultimately made by humans for human use and tourism profits, thus further affecting the organic process of nature. Although National Geographic is advertising to conserve nature and its animals, they are interrupting the everyday life and habitats of animals by utilizing such buggies and roads, as well as advertising for tourism. Metaphors for how we view nature today can be better described by Carolyn Merchant's philosophy on the evolution of the human relationship with nature. Merchant notes, quote, "The organic framework in which the Mother Earth image was a moral restraint against the exploitation of nature was replaced by a new experimental science and a worldview that saw nature not as an organism but as a machine, dead, inert, and insensitive to human action." Unquote. It can be discussed that this change in worldview, which entails the shift from a farming and subsistence culture to a culture of capitalism, science, imperialism, and exploitation of areas, animals, and people. By understanding this, we can see the metaphors in this advertisement as we observe the mechanistic nature of humans, as they look on at what was once truly an uninterrupted organic nature of the lioness and the trees behind it. The use of the safari buggies, which implicates industry, the clearing of trees and making of roads, which implicates imperialism and expansion, and even the use of a camera to capture the scene, which implicates scientific and technological enlightenment, demonstrates to us that we as humans are truly disconnected from nature and unknowingly use it as a ploy for monetary gain and entertainment, often only feasible for first world citizens. The power and negative impact of humankind on nature has been an underlying theme that we have studied in class and in our cultures. Each naturalist article that we read analyzes human impact and philosophy on nature. George Marsh notes that as a great impact, quote, "Man pursues his victims with reckless destructiveness, and while the sacrifice of life by the lower animals is limited by the cravings of appetite, he unsparingly persecutes, even to extirpation, thousands of organic forms which he cannot consume." This philosophy can be paired with what we can see in the advertisement, the human interruption and influence and appetite for the entertainment and materialism that nature can provide. The advertisement is propositioning nothing more than the purpose of enjoying the view of wildlife on a thrill-seeking expedition to the African savanna. In this case, the victim is the nature and wildlife of the savanna that have been sought out by man for materialistic gain, while the other parts of nature, such as the trees cleared to make the road and the thousands of habitats impacted, are ultimately the cravings of appetites of which the human cannot consume and are passively thrown aside. Marsh also notes that humans are separate to nature, that nature is not adapted for human use, and that different people treat nature differently based on their worldview. He also notes that development and civilization bring destructiveness, while more primitive people live in a kind of homeostasis with the land. This is also noted by Soper, who justifies such attractions by explaining how the destructiveness of egocentric worldviews of the civilized man through the colonial era impacted the more primitive people and the nature around them. These people were dehumanized, marginalized, and naturalized from nature by the civilized man. A very interesting aspect that we can observe in the advertisement is that there are no natives pictured. We can only see the nature and the symbols of Western imperialism at work. Given this, we can observe similar themes that appeared in Taylor Swift's Wildest Dreams. Both depict the romanticism of the wild aspect of nature and an imperialist vision by including only what the civilized man is and has in a foreign land. This brings a level of degradation to the local cultures and people that are from the African savanna. As discussed, the philosophy of a split between primitive and civilized man increases. Gregory describes the civilized man as tamed or soft in their nature, whereas the primitive man is untamed and hard in nature. Gregory relates this hard, primitive nature to polar and tropical geography, including Africa. It is ironic for this advertisement because it is being advertised as an almost soft nature, somewhere we can go, be comfortable, be entertained, have fun, and get lost in this nature on the savanna with the comfort of the civilized man in a very harsh environment. Even today, Africa remains an exotic and dangerous place in the minds and stereotypes of Westerners. I believe that many of these subliminal messages discussed above are obviously unintended by National Geographic, as they do incorporate a lot of diversity in their coverage. However, viewing this advertisement alone, we get the connotation of some deeply disturbing relationships with how human beings view nature today. Therefore, we must question the philosophy that Michael Pollan asks: what does nature really mean? Does it mean that uninterrupted nature is the interpreted nature of humans? Since humans have cultivated nearly all areas of this earth, is there truly an authentic nature anymore? Thinking of Castri's idea that the entire universe is natural, including humans, we can apply this to National Geographic's seemingly unintentional philosophy to equate human-impacted nature to uninterrupted nature. With the imagery of exploited African wildlife that have been impacted by human rule of the land for the sake of tourism and profits, and the imagery of a land that has been conquered by imperial and scientific rule that allows them to use such open spaces to impact the animals and nature there, we can conclude that yes, nothing is sacred from human impact, and that humans value self-gratification over preserving natural order, even though the pictured environment is deemed authentic, uninterrupted nature.